You move a knight. It captures a pawn. But that is not the real threat. By moving the knight, you uncovered your rook, which is now attacking the queen. Two threats from one move, and your opponent can only handle one. This is the discovered attack, chess's sneakiest weapon. A discovered attack is one of the sneakiest tactics in chess. The idea is simple: you have two pieces lined up, and the front piece is blocking the back piece's attack. When you move the front piece out of the way, the back piece's attack is revealed, or discovered. Look at this position. White has a rook on d1 and a bishop on d4. The bishop is blocking the rook's view of the king on d8. Now white plays bishop to g7, attacking the rook on h8. But here's the magic: by moving off the d-file, the bishop uncovered the rook on d1, which now gives check to the king on d8. Black must deal with the check from the rook. Meanwhile, the bishop is threatening to capture the rook on h8. Two threats, one move. The opponent can only handle one. A discovered attack is strong. But a discovered check is devastating. When the revealed attack is a check on the king, your opponent has no choice but to deal with it immediately. Look at this position. White has a rook on d1 and a bishop on d5, blocking the d-file. Black has a queen on a8 and a king on d8. White plays bishop takes a8. The bishop captures the queen. But that is not even the main point. By moving the bishop off the d-file, the rook on d1 now gives discovered check to the king on d8. The king must respond to the check. But the queen? The queen is already gone. Captured by the bishop. This is why discovered checks are so powerful. The opponent must handle the check, and your moving piece gets to do whatever it wants, completely for free. Now for the most spectacular pattern in all of chess, the windmill. A windmill alternates between discovered checks and direct checks, trapping the king in an endless cycle. Look at this position. White has a rook on g1 and a bishop on g5. The black king is on g8, hemmed in by its own pawns on e7, f7, and h7, and its rook on e8. The bishop on g5 blocks the rook's view of the king on the g-file. White plays bishop to f6, discovering check from the rook. The king must go to f8, the only safe square. Now bishop goes to g7, giving check from the bishop itself along the g7 to f8 diagonal. The king must return to g8, the only safe square. And now the bishop is back on the g-file, blocking the rook again. The cycle repeats: bishop to f6 for discovered check, bishop to g7 for direct check. Back and forth, like the arms of a windmill. In a real game, the bishop captures material on each cycle. The most famous windmill in history was played by Carlos Torre against Emanuel Lasker in 1925, winning piece after piece with this exact pattern. Discovered attacks don't just happen by accident. You have to set them up. The key is to look for alignments. Find your own pieces that are lined up with an enemy target, with just one of your pieces in between. In this Italian game position, look at the c-file. Black's bishop on c5 is staring at f2, which is near white's king. If black could put a piece on the c-file between the bishop and a white target, then move it away, that would create a discovered attack. Or look at the long diagonal a2 to g8. White's bishop on c4 aims toward f7, near the black king. These alignments are everywhere in chess. Train your eyes to see them. Look for three elements: your attacking piece in the back, a square where your second piece can step away from, and an enemy target in front. When all three align, a discovered attack is waiting. Let's practice finding discovered attacks. White has a rook on d1 and a knight on e5. Black has a rook on d8 and a king on e8. The white rook on d1 would love to attack down the d-file, but wait, the knight on e5 is not on the d-file, so it is not blocking anything. Let me reframe. Actually, the knight on e5 can move to create a fork while the rook supports. But here is the real discovery: can the knight move somewhere that creates two threats at once? Knight to f7. The knight attacks the rook on d8. And it also attacks the king on e8, but let me check. f7 attacks d8, d6, e5, g5, h8, h6. Yes, and f7 attacks both d8 and the rook there. But even better, it forks the king on e8? Actually, from f7, the knight attacks d6, d8, e5, g5, h6, h8. It does not directly attack e8. So f7 attacks the rook on d8 and threatens the king's area. The key concept: look for knight moves that create multiple threats while your other pieces support. Let's recap the discovered attack. A discovered attack happens when you move one piece out of the way, revealing an attack from the piece behind it. The moving piece gets to threaten, capture, or create chaos, while the revealed piece simultaneously attacks a different target. Your opponent faces two threats but can only deal with one. Discovered checks are especially powerful because the check must be handled immediately, giving your moving piece a completely free move. The windmill is the ultimate discovered attack pattern, delivering check after check while capturing material on every single move. To find discovered attacks, look for your own pieces lined up with an enemy target, with one of your pieces blocking the line. Move the blocker with a threat, and watch the destruction unfold. Remember, a discovered attack happens when you move one piece out of the way, revealing an attack from the piece behind it. The moving piece can capture, threaten, or attack something, while the revealed piece strikes a completely different target. Discovered checks are especially devastating because the opponent must deal with the check first, giving your moving piece a free hand. The windmill is the ultimate discovered attack pattern, winning material on every single move. Always look for your own pieces lined up with an enemy target, with just one of your pieces in between. That is your signal. Next up, double check, the most powerful check in all of chess.